Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Career Development Alumni Interview Series. My name is Mike Tarago, one of the directors here in the Center for Career and Professional Development. I'm lucky to have an alumni here with me who currently works within our arts, media, sports, and entertainment career community. More specifically, who is here today to discuss his career in the sports and entertainment industry thus far. Chris, thanks for taking the time to educate our students on your background and how you got to be in your role you're currently working in. So, just to kind of start us off here, maybe just walk us through kind of a quick introduction, Chris, of kind of a little bit about yourself and kind of where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having me, obviously, today, Mike. But for myself, I graduated from Sacred Heart in 2016, which feels like a long time at this point in my life. But from there, actually graduated in the spring and started working for Madison Square Garden actually 2 months later. Um, I interviewed with the Westchester Knicks back my senior year of college in the winter when I was actually interning at MetLife Securities over in Elmsford. I'm from Westchester County, New York, just as a background. And then from there, interviewing again once I graduated in June, and then starting up in July right away with the Westchester Knicks, who, for people that don't know, is the NBA G League affiliate of the New York Knicks. And then after 2 years there, getting promoted full-time to Madison Square Garden in the city, working with the Knicks and Rangers as an account executive.
Awesome. So, just to kind of, I guess, familiarize students and people who are watching this with kind of a little bit more about kind of what an executive or excuse me, what an account manager does. Do you want to just kind of walk us through a little bit more of kind of what your average day looks like, kind of what your day-to-day responsibilities are? Obviously, again, knowing that maybe things have changed a little bit in the pandemic, just kind of walk us through kind of, again, what your average day looks like, what you kind of feel like you fill your time with, again, just to familiarize everyone with kind of what an account manager at MSG kind of looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So for myself as an account executive here, my job is based on new business. That is what I'm trying to do for the company, is bring in new ticket members throughout the course of the season. So ideally, from start to finish, I may be looking for potential leads and prospects to come into games, whether that be someone that has been out to a game with us in the past, that is a business that's looking to entertain clients and taking them from the beginning steps of a deal all the way through towards the end. So just a quick process on that. Ideally, we'll start off with a phone call, some emails to try and get in touch with the person. Once I get them on the phone or talk to them via email, I'll most likely try to book an appointment with them. The biggest thing that I've learned in the first couple of years in the sports industry is that people are going to buy from people that they like, and they're going to be more likely to actually purchase if you're meeting them face to face. So in a normal world, you're looking to meet with these people, ideally at the garden, bringing them down for a behind the scenes walkthrough. I can actually at that point show them, parts of the arena that a typical fan doesn't see, which is pretty cool, of course. And then at the same time, talk through products and things that might be a fit for them. Obviously, in a COVID world now, been doing a lot of that over Zoom. But once we get through with that appointment, either having them purchase on the spot or going back and figuring out the next steps for them to actually purchase, ideally, a ticket plan with us. From there, once that's done, if it is a certain type of account, I will manage that day-to-day of that account going forward. So anything that is a membership style will actually get passed to a service rep who is doing the account management for them, whether that be for season tickets, renewing the account, focusing on getting them out to member events, things like that throughout the course of the season. If there's a smaller option or group outing, I'm going to be focused on managing that day-to-day and basically building the relationship with that person as we progress through the sales cycle.
Great. So yeah, thank you for walking us through that. And definitely a cool experience, I'm sure, to kind of again get to see kind of the inside and outside of such kind of a historic venue like Madison Square Garden. So again, obviously you work at a company that, again, I get asked about daily almost from students of like, how can I work at Madison Square Garden? Again, it's such a competitive company, to work for, but also I think such a cool company, especially again, being, from the area, around this area, we have a lot of students that are, again, like you mentioned, Rangers, Knicks fans,
Right.
again, or grew up kind of going to concerts or other things at Madison Square Garden. And again, you kind of talked about how you started with the Westchester Knicks and were able to kind of matriculate to Madison Square Garden. So maybe just walk us through, what do you think some factors are? What do you think some steps that kind of you took, that contributed to you kind of getting to where you got to? So whether, again, that's steps that you took, during college or right after college,
Mhm.
that led you to the Westchester Knicks, or again, maybe steps that that you took while you were at the Westchester Knicks, kind of having that success, and then also again then able to kind of matriculate that into your kind of your current full-time role now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start off with just, the actual getting the job process. So for my entire life, my dad has been telling me that I need to do something to stand out when it comes to getting a job. Listen, I am someone that graduated with a 3.0 GPA, nothing spectacular, nothing bad, middle of the tier
Mhm.
type of person. I played club football and not a lot of extracurriculars. So if you look at my resume back in college, it wasn't the best. Obviously, it wasn't the worst either, but it was average. So I needed to do something to stand out compared to other people. So listening to my dad and doing that, I actually decided to walk into the Westchester Knicks office back my senior year of college, when I was interning in the neighboring area. I basically said, hey, listen, I'm a college student, would love to pick the brain of someone that, works here at the Westchester Knicks and potentially talk about a job when I do graduate. At that point, I met one of my former colleagues, Thomas Kilkenny, who actually is one of the inside sales managers now at Madison Square Garden. But I spoke with him. He was an account executive with the Westchester Knicks at the time, who then helped me get an interview with my soon-to-be manager with the Westchester Knicks. We kind of interviewed, we talked through the process of what it's like working at MSG for the Westchester Knicks. And he obviously said at that point, you're in college, we can't hire you. There's nothing available at the moment. Come back to
Mhm.
me when the time does come, when you graduate, and we'll take things from there. And at that point, what I did was I kept in touch with him. I let him know how things were going in school, let him know, what when I was graduating, the anticipation of a date of that, and that I'd be more than interested to obviously talk when the time came. Back then in June when I graduated, reached out again, actually skipped the entire interview process. Instead of going through, HR and all that, I
Mhm.
actually just had my last and final interview with him as well as my manager here with the Knicks and Rangers, Brendan Long, who's now the director of sales, at MSG. So was able to actually skip the line, kind of interview with them, and from there, it's basically history for me at that point. Worked with the Westchester Knicks again for 2 years. Doing a lot of different things. People realize that once you work in sports, especially minor leagues, you're going to be doing everything. So I was
Yep.
doing the ticket sales, I was doing the account management, I was working the ticket office, printing tickets for games, as well as helping set up the arena on a game basis, as well as breaking it down after the games. A little bit of everything you get with that. Then, getting promoted from Westchester Knicks to the Knicks and Rangers, honestly, I attribute it to just a lot of hard work. Now, when it comes to the Westchester Knicks, most people that I was calling on a given day were asking if they could try out for the team. They didn't realize that it's actually a professional, sports league and it's a professional sports team. So just, putting my head down, grinding as much as I possibly can for those 2 years until, the time came and I said, listen, I'm ready for the next steps. I've hit my goals the last year. I've, done what I've had to do in regards to, meeting all the requirements for this next position. And then from there, spoke to my manager, applied for the job, spoke to my Brendan Long, who would be my manager after. And at that point, we were able to, say, okay, this is the right time. You've done your job here, you've done your due diligence, you've shown that you can be successful, and kind of take things from there. And, been at MSG since then.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I think one thing I really like that you kind of talked about was how you mentioned Brendan, and I think you mentioned Thomas too, how they, were also kind of with you at the Westchester Knicks, and then, they went to MSG, and the fact that you kind of had those connections, it just clearly shows or shows how important networking is too, just how these contacts that you had moved to kind of MSG. And, again, because you had these relationships with, again, probably a big factor as to, or at least you had resources within MSG to kind of reach out to. And then two other things that you really touched on that I really liked was, again, kind of you talking about how, when you were interning somewhere else, you kind of just walked into the office of the Westchester Knicks. And again, I like that that being proactive. But again, my favorite thing that you had mentioned was the fact that you said, instead of asking for, right, just straight up, like, can I have an internship or what can I do to get a job? You kind of ask for advice or to pick the brain of someone. And I think that's
Mhm.
like something we always talk about: ask for advice and you'll get a job, ask for a job and you're just going to get advice.
Right.
So again, it's networking the right way. And then the other thing that you mentioned too, right, you went to the Westchester Knicks and they said, we don't have a job for you right now. That's something that I think students need to understand too, is unless there's an opening in a company, unless there's an opening in a job, they're not going to be able to really do anything at that moment. But again, making sure to follow up and kind of keeping your options open. And again, like you said, reaching out when you're at kind of a better point, or when there is an opening up. So again, I really like some of the things that you kind of touched on. So again, kind of your one of the previous answers we kind of talked about, you were kind of talking about kind of what you did at Sacred Heart, some of your involvement, things like that. So again, we always like to ask this question, but if you could have done anything differently, or if you could come back to Sacred Heart and do kind of your undergraduate degree all over again, is there anything you would change, or is there anything that you would do differently when, during your time here?
Yeah, I mean, I think about that all the time. And honestly, I'll be honest, I was pretty lucky when it came to getting the job here at MSG. I say that all the time,
Mhm.
It doesn't always happen like that where you're able to, speak to someone and then interview a couple months later and there's actually an opening at that point. But
Sure.
I definitely would have networked more. I definitely would have used the career development office a little bit more in regards to your networking events, the opportunities for job fairs like that. I didn't really take advantage of that when I was in school. I did my sports management um, internship. I did my finance internships for both my degrees, and realistically, those didn't help with getting a job for me. I was able to get those on my own, but
Yep.
potentially using the career development office to get something more in my field and more what I was looking to do would have helped. And networking and reaching out to people ahead of time to build my network and have more people to speak to definitely would have been something that I would love to do over again. You know, the reason one of my friends that works with us now, who works on the service side of things, got his job was he did exactly what I said. He was picking the brains of managers and inside sales managers at the Garden, as well as all different sports businesses, teams in the entire country. I was just asking for 10 minutes of their time to actually do so. Honestly, when it came time for us to hire someone with the Westchester Knicks, my manager, he was the first person that they called. He was someone that they built a relationship with, kept in touch with, and the fact that he reached out just asking to learn a little bit more about the industry and how he can get into it, they loved it. And that was why he got the job. Literally the first person they called on the interview process. And from there it worked. I definitely would have liked to take more advantage of that at some point.
Great. So we're going to probably try to wrap it up here, but maybe just kind of, as we part here, can you just share kind of, just maybe some quick little advice for current students who want to get into, your industry, again, specifically sports, specifically
Mhm.
entertainment, maybe Madison Square Garden, what's kind of a piece of advice that you might have for some current students right now who maybe don't know what, kind of what to do to kind of, get their foot in the door, or maybe they're kind of lost in terms of, what's kind of next steps for them. So maybe just kind of share where, what's one thought you have in that.
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest misconception that most people have is the only way to get into the sports world is through ticketing. And, inside sales programs are usually the first step. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's definitely a good foot in the door, but ticket sales isn't for everybody, to be honest. I wasn't sure if it was going to be for me when I first started 5 years ago at this point. So really taking the time to try and figure out an idea or an avenue that you'd like to go. And then, as I was just kind of alluding to, taking the time to go, especially on LinkedIn, searching for people in your home area where you might be moving back to right after school, or where you're looking to potentially get a job. Obviously, New York City is a pretty big spot, but at the same time, reaching out on LinkedIn, messaging, managers, directors, vice presidents, whoever it may be, and just asking for a quick 10 minutes on their calendar and, trying to learn a little bit more about the industry and what you could do to get into it, because they're going to have the best advice for you because these people have been in the industry for years. And just learning from who I work with now, 99% of the time, if you ask for 10 minutes, they're going to be open to it. If you're
Mhm.
not obviously asking just straight up, can I have a job, but asking to learn more and just pick their brains, most of the time they're going to be, say, hey, let's hop on a quick call. Let's hop on, obviously at this point in the world, maybe even a quick Zoom for 10 minutes of their time. They will be open to it. And from there, you're top of mind at that point. You went above and beyond to try and make yourself and put yourself out there. And then, like I said, with my friend who works here with us now, he was the first person that they called during the interview process. So, ideally putting yourself out there, doing something a little different that not everybody's going to be doing. Yeah, everybody does apply for jobs online. I mean, I was doing that when I graduated from college as well, just, applying online, throwing in my resume, throwing in a cover letter, but doing that extra step to make yourself stand out to people that might have a similar resume that you do, and
Mhm.
going from there, really. I definitely use the networking part 100%.
For sure. Well, good stuff, Chris. Thanks again so much for your time today. We really, appreciate hearing from you. Again, you're really great advice, and again, I'm so happy it's obviously worked out for you, and you kind of, you're in a great place now. So again, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. If anybody, ever wants to reach out to me, you can find me on LinkedIn pretty easily. I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with anyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Bye.